Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another artist conversation as a part of the Expressive Creative Soul Art Exhibition currently on display at the Bridge Art Gallery. Tonight, we are beyond excited to be joined by an award-winning artist, curator, arts leader, Bryant Small, whose work in alcohol ink creates vibrant, fluid compositions that explore movement, identity, and expression through color. Working primarily on Yupo paper, Bryant's process embraces both intention and unpredictability, resulting in pieces that feel alive, immersive, and deeply personal. His work is inspired by fashion, nature, and everyday beauty, while also pushing beyond aesthetics to create meaningful visual experiences. In addition to his studio practice, Bryant plays a vital role in the arts community as a highly regarded curator, shaping really opportunities for artists across the region. Please join me in welcoming Bryant Small.
It makes me want to clap for myself. Like, yeah.
I know, yes. And the crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes mild. Yeah, that's sad.
Hello there, Bryant. How are you?
I am well, caffeinated and awake, so I'm good.
Oh, good. So for those who are being introduced to your work for the very first time, can you share your journey into becoming an artist and what led you to alcohol ink as your primary medium?
Well, I think in my mind, in my spirit, in my heart, I've always been an artist. Since I was a kid, always super creative and into color and movement and everything. But as an adult, I became an artist. I kind of stepped into my truth of being an artist. And that just took time. The first challenge in that, in calling myself an artist, happened at Bridge Art Gallery, thanks to Mack, asking me, are you an artist? And I kind of stumbled, like, I don't know. I mean, I create. And he stopped me and said, no, are you an artist? And at that moment, in between nerves and excitement at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I'm an artist. And I think it was the first time that I acknowledged it and said it out loud in a creative professional environment. So I think we say certain things and call ourselves things or give ourselves labels to ourselves, but it's something else to say it out loud. So I think that journey has been this winding road that got me there. But it came as a challenge from Chris.
Shout out to Mack, who is the greatest. But there is a lot of truth that we have all of these internal conversations, but when we actually say it out loud, it becomes real. And by you saying, yeah, I am an artist.
Yeah.
And that had to be what, like 9 years ago? Or was it 10 years
that
ago?
was 9 years ago. 9 years ago.
That is crazy. I mean, we're going to get more into like your journey as an artist, but well, let's say no, that isn't your journey as an artist, because your journey as an artist began well before 9 years ago.
But 9 years ago, there was like an accelerator button or a new battery put in my back drive to actively be an artist. I always say, in order to be an artist, you have to be doing the verb in creating art. You have to be arting to be an artist. And so, yeah, 9 years ago was that push.
Was that moment you were verbing, basically?
Yeah, I started verbing.
So, what led you to alcohol ink?
So that's my mom's fault, or gift. I don't know, but I've
Mama.
been, really going through a tough time. I was going like in through, for lack of a better term, a personal crisis or whatever. I was in the middle of a divorce, and my mom came to town and said, "Your light is going out,"
Mm.
and said, "I want to show you this. I want to show you this new thing that I've come across." And we went to my dining room table right here, put plastic all over the table, and she said, "Well, basically, you do this, and you do this, and that's how you do it." And that was on the weekend of following Thanksgiving. It was like Black Friday, that small business Saturday. We
Uh-huh.
were creating, and that's when I learned alcohol ink, and literally something clicked. Previous to that, I was painting in acrylic,
Okay.
and had, taken painting courses and done small things for my home and for myself. And yeah, she introduced me to alcohol ink, and I knew that it was something that I could own. It could be something that I could work from and make my mark in. And from that point on, I started researching everything that I could find, every book, every resource available to alcohol ink. And at the time, the options were very few. But I think that was the gift, that it wasn't a lot that
There,
I creeping on me.
yeah, and you have certainly, mastered the medium. For those who are not familiar with alcohol ink, can you describe a little bit about the medium?
Yeah, it's a high pigmented dye that, when it comes into contact with 91% rubbing alcohol, it causes the inks to move around without control, because it's on a smooth surface. For the most part, alcohol ink works best on non-porous surfaces: glass, metal, tile. And I paint on a surface called Yupo paper, which is a synthetic paper made of recycled plastic. So it's a sustainable material, but it doesn't have any grip. It's super smooth, and almost like photo paper meets acetate, something super, super smooth and almost slippery. So the inks float on the surface, and as the alcohol content of the ink evaporates, the pigments stick to the surface. But with every single drop, the inks, because they're alcohol based, react to one another. So it can, a surface that's been dried that I already have alcohol ink on, when I add one more drop of ink, it reactivates or wakes up whatever is on the surface. So it's similar to watercolor in the sense that it's a fluid based medium, and it's very difficult, the process of doing wet on wet painting. But it's just that instead of water is alcohol, and it's super pigmented. Think of it in, I don't want to call it layman's terms, but another way of thinking about it, it is the ink that exists inside of magic markers.
Okay. So, one, when people have seen your work in our gallery, they're always mesmerized by the vibrant color palette, which is, I think, another kind of stark difference between, watercolor that tends to, um, although there are some watercolors that are a little bit vibrant, but nowhere near close
Yeah.
to alcohol ink. But more importantly, how you've been able to like master the medium and being able to control it, because many people have commented that whenever they've tried to use alcohol ink, because of course they're not the masters of it like you, but they can't seem to control it. How are you able to control the medium?
I think I'm not thinking about, in my process, I'm not thinking about control. I'm not thinking about how do I get it to do this exact thing. I'm truly in experimentation and like exploration when I'm doing it. I've gotten to the point, through trial and error and lots of studio time, lots of studio practice, that I can manipulate the inks to do what I want them to do with a certain level of certainty, maybe 85 to 92% of the time. I always describe it as a dance, that sometimes the inks get to lead, sometimes I get to lead. And I'm not planning. I think part of the challenge, when people jump into alcohol ink, they think that they can utilize it in the same way that they use other mediums, like an acrylic or an oil. And it's the complete like opposite of that. It's almost relinquishing control and allowing the inks to do what they do, and going from decision to decision in order to make the art happen.
So how long did you have to work with alcohol ink before you developed this process of I can't be in control, that, it's a dance that we have to do together?
I think I'm still doing that.
Okay.
I don't know. Like I love the idea of being able to master the medium, but there's sometimes that I can go and start painting and it still doesn't do what I need it to do. So I don't know if I'll ever get to the point that like every single time it's a hit, every time I got it. But there's certain things that I can do in that process because I'm going from decision to decision, and there's certain things that I know that I need to do to keep from making a bigger mistake. If a mistake has happened, I
Hmm.
know how to kind of pull things back. That doesn't mean that it is still a masterpiece or it has become a masterpiece, but I've learned how to control bigger mistakes from happening.
Well, I mean, you and Alcohol Inc. have been in a relationship for like 9.5 years, almost 10 years. So,
That's my man. No.
and you all, get to know each other, each other's strengths, how each other moves. And, I think that's, really just one of the beauties of your body of work, which is, and we'll get into that in a little bit, that's so incredible is that you see the different levels and how you're able to work with the medium to convey different emotions, different tones, and different levels of texture. When you started kind of going down this process and developing this wonderful relationship with Alcohol Inc., how much are you leading and how much is the medium leading when you're in that creative process, or is it more balanced?
I think it's a little bit of both. But before that, I have to say thank you because you said that it's been, it's beautiful, it's outstanding, all those things. So first, thank you for saying that about the work. But not but thank you. Period. Now, in terms of the process, it just depends. I mean, I think part of it is being in the right frame of mind. I only create when I'm in a good place. I always say I create from joy. I
Mhm.
do believe that that has some power over it because I'm in the right mind space to be creating. So I think in that I am totally in the lead and in charge of how I'm feeling and making the time to create in that moment. So that's one part of it. But the inks and the elements, the environment is a whole thing that's like out of my control. When I put a drop of ink down, gravity has a lot to do with it. If there's a fan blowing, if it's moisture in the air, there's certain elements that I don't have any control over. And the way that the ink moves, that's on the ink. It may be the way that my table is, if it's tilted, if it's something underneath. So I have to prepare my environment to do certain things if I'm trying to get certain results.
Mhm.
But there are other times that sometimes it's not that I'm not present, but I am not actively thinking the way that I would through like a budget sheet or planning something. It's something spiritual, for the lack of a better term, is happening where I'm not present. I'm just working.
You're just free.
Yeah, I'm not really. Yeah, I'm there, but I can come out of, working in a piece, coming out of that zone and not know how could I do that again? Like, I don't know how I got that. I can't repeat that.
Right.
So
Now, is it fair to say that you cannot create the same piece twice?
I think it's fair to say that I
Mhm.
can I can embody certain techniques. So that's like the commission process. Someone will ask me to, can you do this piece in red and green versus blue and yellow? And
Okay.
I can embody the style. So I have like varying styles of work or techniques that I will tap into to get certain results. So in that process of of someone commissioning me for work, I try and have a conversation with them around the style of my work that they're interested in. Is it something more organic and kind of flowy and kind of morphing into one color to the next? Are they looking for something a little more structured? Are they looking for something with a little more sparkle, or whatever the case is? And that kind of gives me the starting point for how I will execute. And that's just come with developing my own style in the ink.
Now, you mentioned that you approach your process by painting from a place of joy.
Yeah.
Have you ever not started the process from a place of joy, and how did that inform the work?
Um, Part of this, the work is giving me joy. I
Okay.
think that's part of it. But if I'm just not in a good space to create, I don't
Okay.
use my art as like a cathartic process, like working through my stuff. There's some artists that purely work from that space, or
Mhm.
they tap into their pain or grief or whatever it is and kind of work through it. I don't use my art in that way. That's
Okay.
not how I process it. I am a firm believer that when people support my art, or they buy the art, or they put it in their spaces, that art represents the best parts of me. And I don't feel like you should be bringing my bad juju and my bad stuff into your space as because I've used it as a conduit to get through it. So I do believe in trying to put the best parts of me, the best energy, the best joy into the work, regardless of the color palette. Just because it may be black and grays and whatever darker tones, or tones
Mhm.
that sometimes reflect sadness for other people, that's not the place that it's coming from for me. If you receive it that way and it helps you to process your emotions in that way, that is perfectly fine. The intention is always good for me, but if it reminds you of something else, that's on you.
Right, because I mean, art is a very personal, experience from the creator as well as the collector. When you talked about, painting from a space of joy, it reminds me. I think the title of the book is "Like Water for Chocolate," where
Hmm.
this woman used to cook, but whatever emotions she was feeling at that time was what the people who were eating her food experienced. But I would say 99% of the time when people see your work, they do experience a sense of, joy, or, an awe of like the sheer beauty. And we've had the pleasure of showing it internationally.
Come
Just
on, international. You know I'm international.
well, you were international
Y'all over
before
there,
we
you know I'm
took
international. Okay.
it. Yes. So we do have a question. The question is, how do you know when a piece is finished or done?
When I feel like if I do one more thing, I'm going to destroy it.
Okay.
That's how I know that, okay, pencils down. That's it. Time's up. Or sometimes I have to let go of the sense of perfection, that one last thing, like, ooh, if I could just get that one last thing. I've done this enough to know that sometimes going back for that one last thing screws up hours of work.
Getting
And
a
with
little
alcohol
too
ink, it's very difficult to back my way out of it.
getting a little too greedy with the
Right.
process.
It's like, calm down. That's it.
Push
That
away
you've
from the
passed.
table. Push
You've
away from
passed
the
that
table.
thing. You've pushed it to the limit, and that
Mhm.
one last thing, that one little thing can destroy it, and it's done.
Well, I'm going to get into the work, but I want to give you one comment that made me chuckle. We had one of your larger pieces in the gallery a couple of months ago, and it was called Manifest.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to the viewer about alcohol ink, and she said, that explains it. She's like, you have to have alcohol to do whatever you want to do. It'd be a good time.
Well, the thing is, that's one of the things that comes up frequently, like when people ask about alcohol ink, or how did you do that? And I say, my medium is alcohol ink, and they're like, oh, tequila. You paint with tequila? Oh, so you must be drinking when it happens. And I'm like, no, different kind of alcohol. However, during the pandemic, the 91% rubbing alcohol that I use in my process was not available.
Oh, that's right.
So I had to figure out, there are several paintings between 2020 and 2022, and even into 2023, um, are not using rubbing alcohol at all. It's actually Everclear, drinking alcohol, high grade liquor.
Oh, that
Um,
that grain.
yeah, grain alcohol. But I learned that during that time, I needed to wear gloves. And that's because whenever I'm creating, that environment of joy and being in a good place, I'm listening to music, or sometimes I'm FaceTiming with my mom and we're talking and having a good time. But during the pandemic, in the process, I'm like, goodness, it is warm in here. Like, okay, this is good. And like, I'm laughing and giggling, and I realized that the Everclear was seeping into my hands, and I was really getting my alcohol tipsy on from the Everclear.
That is hilarious.
And so I'm like, and that's because normally I'm not wearing gloves, because rubbing
Right.
alcohol, I always say I have the cleanest hands in the business because I'm always immersed in alcohol. And with Everclear, it was a different experience, and I had to learn that like, wait a second, and I'm not a heavy drinker, that I could
Mhm.
feel it within minutes, like, uh-oh, okay, something is going on here. So it changed the process.
Now, did the work look any different between the 2?
Yeah, it takes away some of the sheen, the luminosity.
Mhm.
So a lot of those pieces during that time period have like a matte quality to them, in the
Okay.
way that sometimes the inks, when they are on the surface, they can almost look like fresh candy. Like if you've ever seen hard candy be made, there's like these swirls of color and vibrance. The color and the swirling would still be there, but they're super matte. So
Okay.
it does lose something, but it also gives it another feel for some of the work during that time.
Now, do you ever, if you're looking for, your rubbing alcohol is kind of like your base
Yeah.
that you're using. Um, Post-pandemic, is there ever a time where you're using the other medium, and have you ever used both of them in one piece to give?
Yeah, I've never used both at the same time. Actually, as I was saying that, I'm like, wow, I haven't used both. So that's where the exploration comes in. But first,
Mhm.
I need to research what rubbing alcohol does to high grain alcohol if I end up with a fire or something.
Oh,
So
no, we don't wanna do that.
right. So I do kind of consider that when I'm doing things, but I've never used them together. And coming out of the pandemic, um, once I was able to get the alcohol back, I could see a distinct difference between the two.
I love
But
the
yeah, I
Yeah,
never
I
go
love the
back.
fact yeah, I love the fact that, even after, working with the medium for quite some time, mastering it, being award winner with the medium, that, during the pandemic, you were exploring new facets of it and continue to, learn new things about the medium and yourself as an artist.
Yeah, I think it was out of necessity, because during that time, art is what kept a lot of us afloat.
Mhm.
And so I think it was important during that time to, explore different things that I normally wouldn't explore, of course, out of necessity, but also out of, just a creative push or creative force. I will say that using Everclear, buying it by the gallon and having, stores deliver it here, because I wasn't going out, they were
Uh-huh.
looking at me very crazy, ordering gallons of, half gallon bottles, gallons, and any small bottles that they had, like 2 grocery bags full of alcohol, of grain alcohol, that they were looking at me a little crazy, having, done that a few times. So that's another thing that keeps me from still doing it. I know I have a couple bottles still that I could tap into, and use it, but I haven't. I don't know if that means that's the end of that chapter and I don't explore it again. Who knows? I don't know.
That is hilarious. Be like the delivery person, like, bruh, you okay?
You okay? You check. I'm like, leave it out there. Just leave it. I'm okay.
Well, let's get into your fabulous work that currently is on display at the Bridge Art Gallery as a part of the 10th year of Expressive Creative Soul. And this is Reignite.
Yes. So this is an example of when I talk about the inks kind of being more organic and flowing into themselves. There's very little manipulation in this particular work. It is really the inks kind of doing what they do. I will say in my process, I typically will not use the colors brown or black because as you can see, you're able to get dark tones into the work without using those particular colors, using brown and black, because with the different tints and tones come from just the mixing of all of the colors. So that's a cool thing about the ink itself, is that I can create different levels of color or different intensities just using the inks without having to go through the mixing of incorporating more black to get a darker tone or incorporating white. They kind of mix on their own. So it's a balance of, should I add more ink? If I add more ink, I may get something really muddy that destroys the rest of the color that's in there. I may add too much dark blue or whatever the color is, and it will take out all my tones of orange and yellow and then make it into a muddy brown, which I say, depression brown is the worst color that I can get in working in alcohol ink, because it gets to a point that you are not able to work your way out of it. Also for Reignite, this particular piece, this dark blue thread that's throughout the color, you'll see on the edge, it's like an edge of like a neon blue.
Mm-hmm.
And that just came from not shaking the ink up as much as I needed to. But I found that it worked and stayed and held its place. And so I'm like, let's just go with it. I'm just going to go with it and see how far this, intensity, this intense border would go. And it also helps to give a little dimension too.
Yeah, this particular piece of work has a lot of energy, and when I saw the title Reignite, I'm like, of course, this is the name of it, because that's the kind of energy that it's exuding. How do you develop your naming convention for your artwork?
It depends. I try not to name anything for what I see in it. I want you to get your own independent experience out of it. But I also, with this particular piece, it was a time that I hadn't painted for like a window of time. So it was like this reignition of jumping back into the art. So that's more of what the title came from versus what you see. I try not to do that. So if it looks like a tree, I'm never going to name it the Tree of Life. And like
Exactly.
I want you to have your own unique experience with it. But typically, my titles will come from conversations that I'm having while creating the art, or conversations that I just had, or music that I'm listening to. So a clue into what's happening in my life at any given time is often the titles of I almost said the titles of the songs. The titles of the paintings will sometimes come into play.
So after you've created your body of work, when you go back and you're showing it, or you're looking back through your expansive, and you do have an expansive body of work, for
Yes.
anyone who wants to feature him in an upcoming, solo group show exhibition, he's got work on work on work on work.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
fill some warehouses. Let's fill some floors. Let's do it.
exactly. Does it, when you see the painting after not, maybe seeing it for a while, does it take you back to that moment of creation?
Often, yeah. There's very few. I mean, there during the pandemic, there's a lot of paintings. I was painting a lot throughout the pandemic, where I can't exactly recall the time. But prior to the pandemic, over the last 8 years, a large portion of the work has kind of created a timeline for what's happened in my life and my career. So when I see it, I have a connection to it in that moment, even if it's a older small painting, because the journey has been so gratifying or
Right.
electrifying that it creates those little thumbprints of memories of what's happening. So a lot of the work, I can go to the moment. I may not know the day, but I know, like, oh, that was March 2020. This was, I feel like that was July, 2022. There's
Hmm.
certain like triggers that come with the work that I can recall them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like a sensory kind of moment that it's not, smells or sounds, but it's, visually looking at it and remembering that feeling
Yeah.
when you were creating. So this is currently on display at the Bridge Art Gallery,
And for
213,
sale.
and for sale, 213 North Market Street, downtown Wilmington. So the next painting is "It's Not What You Think."
It's not what you think. It's not what you think. So I could tell you certain things that I see in the work. I try not to instruct people on what I see. However, I do see what my mom and I laugh about and call unintentional images. But I do see a couple with their back to you sitting and having a conversation. That's one way that I could look at it. Again, but that's not trying to tell you that's what you're supposed to see. It just so happens that that's what I see from one perspective. The other thing is that I also see this huge heart on the right hand side of the painting. Not to say that this is about love or connection or anything. It's not what you think. So it's whatever, it's whatever. And so that's where like names come from. And so it's not what you think it's not what I think, really.
Okay, now I cannot see the couple, like not see the couple, or the heart. And
Yeah.
now it's like making me love this piece all the more because all I see is me and Chris on
See?
the bench in the park.
But that's what, so and it's not anything that I planned. It's just these
Mhm.
unintentional images that when I'm creating, I am thinking about color, I'm thinking about composition and balance and making sure that it's not muddy, it's not too dark, it looks like light is shining through. So I'm thinking about those things, but the end result, I haven't planned that it was going to look like a couple. That's what I see. And then it's not planned that I'm creating a heart in there. That's just what the shape did at the time.
Right.
Um,
So this is a painting about me and Chris and our love because you see the two people sitting on the bench and we just love each other.
that's it. It's all love.
It's all
Hashtag
love.
Team Mack.
Well, one thing that is just absolutely spectacular when like all of like you have a wide variety of your pieces, on display is how you're able to convey texture within your artwork. And it's like second to none because first you have like all of these, vibrant colors because, alcohol ink definitely has a vibrant color palette, but how you're able to, convey texture within your artwork is just like, that's also the mesmerizing aspect of your work.
That's important to me. I think when I think about the way that watercolor can be used, and there's some masters of watercolor that can do amazing things, even though it's like this fluid medium, you can truly see dimension. And that's what I try and strive for, is not only having a beautiful base to look at, but layers that you can kind of look at and allow those shapes of two people to float to the surface, and then you can see beyond them. Of course, again, not intentional, but I am purposefully and purposely uh, adding texture and doing a first layer and then going on top of it and then going on top of that, or sometimes incorporating small lines of acrylic to create dimension and making it more a mixed media piece so that it doesn't fall flat. But typically 98% of the time my work is all alcohol ink. I may include glitter, for a little glitz and sparkle. But for the dimension, I try and depend heavily on just alcohol ink.
And what we see with viewers of your work is that everyone sees something completely different.
Yeah,
And then it becomes a conversation, especially if it's a group of people looking at the work and they're like, oh, I see this. And they're like, oh, I don't see that, but I do see this.
right.
And that's what we enjoy, when people connect with the work on a very personal level, um, as well as the additional conversations when there's more than one person seeing the same piece of work, and how it becomes a dialogue between the viewers.
Yeah, that's the gift that people, when you see what you see, you build a personal connection to the work. It's always something, it's also very special or gratifying when kids look at the work
Hmm.
and they see, dragons, or there's a rainbow, there's a frog, whatever the case is, that the work allows their imaginations to kind of blossom in that moment. And then it allows for conversation between, like, a parent and a child, or whatever the dynamic is. I love the concept of, having people take a step closer to try and see if they can see the thing that, their counterparts saw, and have a conversation about, like, I don't see that at all. The only thing I see is this. Or
Right.
someone at the same time having a reaction like, I don't get it. The only thing I just see is a whole bunch of color.
Right.
That's okay too. I'm not put off or offended by that at all. What you see is what you see.
We love when little people come into the gallery. One, they're super honest
Yes.
about what they see, and then also just the representation aspect of it. But every time there's a little person that comes into the gallery, I've been doing this since we had our first location in New Jersey. I always ask little people, look at all of the art and tell me which one is your favorite and why. And every single time, that little person is so intentional about looking at every single piece, and then they pick out their favorite one and they're able to tell you exactly why that's their favorite. And sometimes parents try to like over explain, no, no, that's not what you see, and the kids are always like, mm-mm,
I
I
see what I
see
see.
this.
Like, no, I see a ship. I
Mhm.
see a ship. That's it.
And they like what they like. But I think it's something about um, asking their opinion, giving them the freedom to move, unattended in the space. It's very important for us that little people feel comfortable in our space.
Hmm.
Even though we're an art gallery, we're very kid friendly. Like we want you to be able to look at all of the work. Um, in your own way. If you want to run around and look at the work fast, then we have the space for you to be able to do that. But I think, it's treating the viewers of all ages the exact same way.
Yeah. I think there's something valuable in kids and adults. I mean, just people feeling comfortable coming into an art identifying space, a gallery, a museum, whatever the case, and feeling like they can spend time in the space without interruption. That they can look at art even if they don't understand it, and have the ability to ask a question and not feel threatened or unwelcome by not being an art person, but you're just, broadening your horizons. Or kids that have exposure to art sometimes learn that you can be an artist as a career for the first time. That it makes it clear that, wait, the paintings that are in my home that, my parents have on their walls, someone created that. It's not this made up thing. It's not necessarily just something on a printing press. It is someone, there's a person that can create beautiful things. And
And make
without exposure, kids don't know that.
exactly, and that's a available pathway and career for them.
Absolutely.
Like all of that is very important. So we're going to transition this conversation into another prominent aspect of your life.
Yes.
And
Uh-oh, what's that?
oh yes, let's get to the tea. Um, so, Mr. Bryant Small, you are not only an artist, but you're also
A
a highly
supermodel. No,
a
sorry.
supermodel. Yes, you are a supermodel. You're that too. You're all the things fabulous. But you are a highly sought after and highly regarded curator and arts leader. So, how does your curatorial work influence your perspective as an artist?
I actually think it's the other way around. I think that my life as an artist informs my curatorial process or perspective. When I'm curating, I curate from really two spaces. Well, maybe three, but the core places that I am curating from or thinking about as I curate an exhibition is first from the artist perspective, because almost every artist have done an exhibition, been at a gallery, in a show, whatever the case is, and walked in and thought, why did they put my piece right there? Like, why am I on that wall? I want to be on that wall, or this should be lit this particular way or that particular way. And I think about that in every decision when I'm curating, about ensuring that every artist that comes to that exhibition or that show, whatever the case is, that they are proud of their work and the way that it's being presented. So that's one way that I think about it. The second place that I really get a lot of inspiration in curating from is curating from or for the perspective of like a 9-year-old kid, because at 9 you're exploring new things. You can see things still that you have never before seen in your life, and that can make a huge impact on you. And so I always think about having these big bursts of moments of wonder, or a big reveal that, gosh, I've never seen anything like that before. And so I always try to have that pow, that big ooh ah moment in an exhibition. And so those are the places that it kind of starts from. In the process part of it, the execution part of it, I'm putting together a puzzle. And I just have all these beautiful puzzle pieces that I need to fit together to make the exhibition whole. And so I'm using those, my experience as an artist, my experience as a 9-year-old kid, and making this puzzle work.
You mentioned, puzzle pieces, and I want to credit Maurice Evans for, when we first opened the first did our first exhibition, and I asked him the question, as an artist, when you're displaying all of your work, what was important? And I also asked Grace, but I think it was more so Maurice Evans who gave me these kind of guiding principles. And he was like, you want to think about the
Mm-hmm.
movement from piece to piece. What kind of story are you telling, with the pieces, as well as having similar work adjacent to each other. And
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean, same color palette, that can happen or
Mm-hmm.
not, but also having like really strong work next to really strong work, soft work next to soft work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been, Christopher and our approach to the gallery, whenever we're doing a show, like what kind of story are we telling, what pieces are complementary? Do you find the same thing when you're curating?
Yeah, my job as a curator is also to lead you through an experience,
Mm,
and um, not ever have you question which direction to walk in next. I
mm,
find it incredibly frustrating when I go to a museum or a gallery and I'm just not sure of where the next piece is. And sometimes that's just because these spaces can be massive and have a luxury of wall space
mhm,
that you don't know, whether you go to the right when you get to the end of this corridor or do you go to the left. And that's a nightmare for me. The work should guide you through the space. It should lead you to the next piece. or the next experience. So I am thinking about that. I am thinking about like stories or vignettes of what I'm trying to tell. But all of that really comes back to the initial thought process or the initial idea for the exhibition is where it starts. I shouldn't have too much work trying to put it together because I know that everything that I've selected for that show was with a purpose. It wasn't just because it was pretty, it's because technically it works with this piece, or there is a repetitive shape or movement in the work that drives the entire exhibition. All of those things have to fit together to tell the right story, to complete the sentence.
So, what do you do when you've been, say, you're curating and um, all the pieces don't necessarily fit together perfectly? Have you ever had that challenge?
I've had it happen, and I have to think about it. It goes back to there was a reason why I selected it, and sometimes it's looking at everything and everything that I have there, and sometimes it may be, you know what, this needs to be edited. I
Mm.
have too much work,
Hmm.
and that's why it's not working. Or get rid of your original thought of what this space was going to look like. Let's go back to the brass tacks. What am I trying to tell? Or what am I trying to lead people to? Is there a moment that I'm trying to lead them to? And what kind of builds the momentum to get to that moment? Or do I just, show the moment and have it go more quiet as we walk through? It just depends on what the feel for the exhibition is. But if I've done my pre-work, then the layout is actually very easy. If I've really intentionally selected work and selected art that tells this story, and I'm not trying to just fill the space,
Hmm.
it's rare that I'll get to the point where I'm like, this isn't working. It may be, I think that could be higher. I think maybe I'll swap these two pieces. Maybe let me explore this or that. But like, this isn't working flat out. Not at that point. It's too late because the show, trains leaving the station. Show has to happen. So
Exactly.
you got to make it happen. You got to make it work.
And that becomes a form of artistry within itself,
Oh, yeah.
and a form of storytelling, especially when your initial vision and then when you get the work together, you're like, like it's not working out the way that I thought it would. And then you have to do a different level of, problem solving. But
Yeah.
you're right. About the movement of the guest or the viewer through the exhibition, that it's almost like the work is guiding you through without you even realizing, oh, the work is you know pulling me to the right and
Right.
then looping it around, as opposed to pulling me to the left and
Yeah.
looping around.
Yeah. And but as a curator, that's your job to lead people. It is
Mhm.
you're leading them into an experience. And the other part about it, I said that it could be, two or three places that I curate from. I'm also thinking about providing an experience to educate someone on something
Mm.
so that they walk away saying, oh, I did learn about this new medium, or I've never seen that artist do this thing. I learned about, oh, the history, and that's where that artist works from. I also try and have some type of element that the visitor walks away with something.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And it can be something as simple as, I never imagined that, orange and red on a blue
right,
background would pop in the way that it did, and, create this, emotional connection for me, that I can't stop thinking about this,
right.
image. Or, um, wow, I didn't know, especially like when I think about Martrice's work,
Hmm.
which is like so incredible. Oh, I didn't know that much about, the Great Migration and how that it's influenced, how we move around today, and music, and
Right.
families, and all of those things. So absolutely, absolutely. So you're a powerful member of, I think, no slight to any of the other exhibitions that we've curated, but I think this is like our best exhibition that we've had of expressive creative soul.
It's heavy hitters in this show. I think independently, each artist carries their own weight.
Yes,
Collectively, it's a force.
absolutely. And
Um,
it works so well together.
yeah, it's a well, it's a great, perfectly curated show. But the roster of artists, um, it's almost like the Avengers coming together.
Yes, yes,
That
yes.
like everybody has their own special superhero power, but
Yes,
together collectively, you have the dream team. Like you have the Avengers that can handle anything.
absolutely. And
So.
that perfectly describes how I feel. Like every time I come into the gallery and I'm greeting the artwork because that's what I do every time I open the doors. That it does feel like, all-star team. And it's like, from, Theda Sanderford's piece soon as you walk in, and DeMarcus's piece, and then
Hmm.
a Jamu, then you're moving through Ron Powell's piece, and then it's quirky.
Yeah.
Then Cortez, Boone, and yours, and Danielle's, and Martrice's, and then circling back, to Ron. Like it is. I mean, for us, it's also a love letter.
Mm.
Um, in the sense that the artists that are in this particular show exhibition are our art family,
Yeah.
and it is a celebration. And I think for Chris and I'll speak for Chris, that it's also a sense of pride because all of you all we've worked with for a while, and to see how all of your work has elevated
Hmm.
tremendously over the years. And it's for us, we're just so proud of the incredible work that all of you all are doing, and we just want to see you continue to soar and expand, and continue with international opportunities, these major exhibition opportunities. And it's just really truly a love letter for this 10-year journey.
I think another part of that is that all of us, in one way or another, want to do everything that we can to support you guys too. I
Mm,
think that having an art home, a place that, regardless of what other exhibition you're doing, whatever you have going on, you still have a place at Bridge Art. I think that's also an ingredient, is that no matter when you call and what you need, whatever art you need, these people will show up. These people will give you strong work. It's not, oh, I got these three pieces. It's like, no, whatever it is that you need, we got you. I think that's part of it. And that's because you guys have been such a supporter of our work for the last 10 years, that having a home in New Jersey, and now we got a new house in Delaware. I think that's part of it. And we also did we had a home for a few weeks in Marrakesh.
that's
Like,
right.
so it's just all these, it's all these growth opportunities and growth spurts that everybody is having at the same time. But no matter what, you can always go back home.
Oh, that makes me feel good. And we do consider this like our core group of artists. And we do view you guys as family. But we also want to do everything that we can to provide a platform to, continue to help your art practice, grow.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the Bridge Art Gallery team very well, that we don't work in silos. Like, we're always referring artists
Yeah.
to other galleries, to other exhibition opportunities, because we want to see artists continue to flourish as much as possible in your art practice. So Mr. Small, what are some of the most important opportunities or challenges that you see for artists today?
I think staying motivated is going to
Mm-hmm.
be a key thing. I think, regardless of the space that you work in, especially for an artist that creates from joy,
Mm-hmm.
outside stress, political stress, what's happening out in our environment, can weigh you down. It's important to find joy in the little stuff. Know that even if you don't work from joy and you work from a different place of kind of exercising those demons and getting that stuff out, that you stay energized, and not let the frustration slow you down. Artists are activists. And so
Mm.
activism is something, especially right now, is key to keep going. Know that, we have to be flexible when the economy is different
Mm.
and find different ways to sustain yourself and learn, add new tools to your tool belt and, present opportunities for other artists. Just because something is not for you doesn't mean it can't be for another one of the Avengers. And open those doors. And that's something I take great pride in is in this exhibition, there's so many artists that I help to connect you guys with or help to just leave the door open behind me when the opportunity was provided to me. I was able to prop the door open and let several other people through and
Um,
and make
so can I
connections.
can I correct you that everyone except for one artist that's currently in the gallery we met through you, or you
Love it.
referred them to us.
That
Every
feels
single one.
good.
Every single one.
That feels really good because I want I want my dream team, the Avengers, to be people that I love and respect their work. So if I get the opportunity, I'm always going to provide the opportunity to, the baddest people I know out there, people that when I see their work, sometimes it ticks me off that in that moment I can't start creating. And it's not out of competition, it's out of how how does your mind work to do that? Now I got to figure out what I can do that like embodies that somehow pushes me to think bigger, larger. Like what can I do? So it's good to be part of a team of people, a family of artists that really support each other.
Yeah, and that's, inspiring each other.
Yeah,
Not not I mean, there is the "you can do it, I believe in you," but it's also, "Hey, I'm pushing my creativity to the limit. What you gonna do?"
right. Like, all right, it's time. What's
Mhm.
up? What are you working on new? What how you challenge yourself? What's happening?
I think it's time that we do a documentary. Maybe
I
these conversations are the start of, like, the documentary of, you know, um, the art family, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cast of characters and
Oh yeah. I mean,
personalities.
don't get me wrong. We got some crazy folk. We got some stuff going on. But I think that I think it would be an interesting story to tell because I do realize that we have a very unique situation happening. Something very
Absolutely.
special, with these artists in this show in particular, that there is a community, where most of us, even if everybody didn't know everybody, have been following each other's work and love each other's work. And so, like Ajamu, we are like, gosh, I know you from somewhere. I know you from somewhere. I know that work. And then it clicks like, wait, I've been following you for 5 years. I love your work. Remember when you did this and you had this happen and vice versa. And that's when you know that it's something special going on, that there's this 1 degree of separation, and then when we get to the gallery, that 1 degree is gone. Everybody is in the same space, and it's like, no, 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 there's something energetic. Like even after the opening, I may have sent out a text message like, I realized I needed this recharge.
Mhm.
I needed to be in the space with everybody and like, that was the recharge that I needed. That was the energy that I needed for that. So it's good.
Yes, well, I'm always thrilled to chat with you. I'm always, honored to feature your work in the gallery. You are art family to us, and
Right back.
this conversation has been, absolutely amazing, delving into, your history with your medium that you've mastered, your award-winning career, your exceptional curator life that has provided opportunities for so many different, artists, and have supported so many different cultural institutions with the storytelling aspect. So, my final kind of closing question for you is, as viewers are experiencing your work within the Expressive Creative Soul art exhibition, what do you hope they feel or take away from encountering your artwork?
That they cannot live without it, and I have to buy it now. That's that's what I want you to feel.
I want you to feel that too.
I want you
I
to
want you.
feel so compelled that I can't live without this. I need to take this home today. Like that's part of it. Now I want people to have an intense connection and know that it was created, with the best of intentions to give you an experience, to give you something to smile about and enjoy in your personal realm, or to trigger, a memory of somebody, whatever the case is. That's what it is there for, to make you feel good, and make you feel good enough to buy it and buy some other stuff too.
That's right. So you can check out Bryant Small, amazing collection of work, and we'll just bring it up on the screen again. It's Not What You Think, and Reignite. Currently on display at the Bridge Art Gallery at 213 North Market Street, downtown Wilmington, Delaware. We thank Bryant for joining us in this wonderful conversation and being so free with his time and perspective. Where can people find you, and what do you have coming up?
They can find me everywhere. www.bfly777.com. On Instagram, it's bfly777. That's at bfly777. In order to get access to my art, I also have a whole other career, I guess, a whole different energy and effort also in being a makeup content creator. So on IG, it's also bfly777 faces for my makeup page. And on TikTok, you can follow me at bfly777. I try and stay consistent. Art and branding is very important. So
Okay, so one minor correction. You're not just a content creator as far as like your other endeavors on social media. He is officially an influencer with a substantial following, so we're not minimizing that
let's
at
not minimize.
all.
I'm an influencer.
You are an
Yeah.
influencer. And please go to his TikTok, because I cannot describe what he's doing live with his artistry, but it will blow your mind. So thank you, Bryant.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was a quick. It's been 15 minutes.
No, it's not. It's been an hour. So this is the fun that we have as a part of the Bridge Art Gallery family. We're thrilled to have Bryant's work along with 12 other artists as a part of the Expressive Creative Soul, the 10-year edition of Expressive Creative Soul. Thank you, Bryant, again for your time with this virtual artist conversation to learn more about you and your process. Bryant is an amazing curator. And so if you would like to obtain information on how museum curators, because he is a museum curator for one of the Smithsonian affiliated museums, if you would like to find out more information on how you as an artist can become a featured artist within a museum, reach out to Bryant on his social media. He will definitely provide you with some insight and tips. And
Perfect.
so
Thank you.
thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day as you're watching this. whether it's live or in the replay, and see you at the gallery.